Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Nacc, and joined as always by Rog. And we have a special guest for you this evening, Mr. Nick from the Partial Breakaway Podcast. Welcome, Nick. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have some fun today. So we're going to break down again another division. This week is going to be a full breakdown of the AFC West. So talking about the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders. We've also done previously completed the AFC East, AFC North, NFC East, NFC North, AFC South, and NFC South. So be sure to check those out as well. Wow, that was kind of hard rolling off the tongue there.
Bring on the season.
Yeah, seriously. I think what's funny is watching Good Morning Football this morning with Kyle Brandt. I don't know if you caught it, but they were talking about the Ravens and how you say you turn up the AC or turn down the AC. And when they asked Kyle Brandt the question, he's like, "Man, we're 2 weeks away from Cowboys Giants. Like, we need some football, man, with this AC talk.
Yes.
Like, what's going on here? You know?"
Yes. 100%.
So yeah, we're definitely excited, and with fantasy drafts around the corner as well, we're very excited for football. But be sure to follow us, guys, on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Always content going out daily, so be sure to check us out. And if you like hockey, please make sure to follow the Partial Breakaway Podcast, hosted by Nick, who is a Raiders fan. So we're going to get a Raiders perspective in this episode. Also has co-host Junior and producer Vince. So they're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. They're everywhere. They are very, very good podcast for anyone who loves hockey. So guys, check them out. You won't be sorry.
And they have the live show too, right, Nick? Do you know if you want to plug that in?
Well, 100th episode is coming up this Sunday, and we're going to do an in-person live show with some of our guests, and maybe we'll see one of you guys there or not.
I should be there.
But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we're celebrating really our listeners, people that have supported us during the first 100 episodes, and kind of giving back to the community a bit.
100%.
That's amazing, and honestly, congrats, guys,
Congrats,
on your
guys.
100 episode. You guys are doing really, really well. So keep it up, and guys, check them out. Seriously, you're in for something. So, without further ado, we will dive right in. We will start off with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, the Chiefs last year finished 12-5, capped off with a Super Bowl blowout at the hands of the Eagles. That was the third straight year they were there. Not sure they're going to be back for a fourth year, but never say never, as they still do have Patrick Mahomes. So, we will be talking about Patrick Mahomes. We'll be talking about, obviously, Travis Kelce. But noteworthy changes, actually, for the Chiefs in the offseason. They drafted offensive tackle Josh Simmons for LT, left tackle help. That's going to be a big boost to that line. That's one of the positions they were really missing. Drafted Jalen Royals, another speedster. We know what Patrick Mahomes did with Tyreek Hill, so that could be something to monitor. But they did lose Joe Thuney, so we'll see how that makeshift offensive line does this year. So we'll start off with Patrick Mahomes at the QB position. Obviously, he's the unquestioned QB1 in Kansas City. So Fantasy Pros has him ranked as the QB6, and he's going right now in as a 2 QB ADP of 19.5. So seems about right, I feel. But and I know he was really upset from last year, and I feel like I think I've said this before in previous pods. He's kind of coming on a revenge tour this year. So, Raj, I want to hear your thoughts on Mahomes. Is he undervalued right now at where he's going? Could he be a sneaky, pick this year?
It's crazy to think that the best QB in the world can be a sneaky value pick, but
Right?
it seems like it can be that way. And one of the things that is bothering me about Mahomes and the Chiefs is the way they've been dinking and dunking over the past 2 or 3 years. So if you look at the average depth of target for Mahomes over the last call it 6 years. So in 2018, he was at 9.7 yards. 2019 and 2020, he was at 8.5. But since 2021 to 2024, it's went from 7.8, 7.9. Then the last 2 years, it's 6.8 and 6.1. Those are crazy, crazy numbers. And obviously, it coincides with the loss of Tyreek Hill. It coincides with maybe adding more pieces that are maybe slower, like DeAndre Hopkins and Juju Smith-Schuster. But I have to think that Andy Reid is going to go back to the well and realize that you have Patrick freaking Mahomes. You just drafted Jalen Royals. You have Hollywood Brown, who's a speedster. You have Xavier Worthy as well. So I think people are going to look at drafting Baker Mayfield over Patrick Mahomes, and even Bo Nix possibly because of the rushing upside. And I think that would be a massive, massive mistake.
I think I tend to agree is exactly what you said. Like it's still Patrick Mahomes. Like he didn't. It's not that he just changed overnight, right? Like he's not. He's still the best QB in the league, right? That you could argue that. So, Nick, I'm
He's
curious
getting
to hear
dad.
what.
He's getting dad bod shamed this summer.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's
can it stop?
it's
Like
crazy. It's crazy.
they got him to
Someone's
cut his hair.
well, he actually he wanted to cut his hair. To be fair, he didn't. He never. He knew he was getting too old for that hair. He didn't like it, but because they were going on that streak, he didn't want to
Yeah.
lose the hair, and it's got the superstition in him, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's something. I feel like something special might be coming, but curious to hear your thoughts, Nick.
Well, I mean, you guys mentioned it to begin with, right? Like, there's questions on that offensive line. And because there's questions on that offensive line, you tend to dink and dunk a lot
Yeah.
more often because you don't have the time to actually pass protect and sit in the pocket and throw it deep. Now, they haven't really had the weapons recently because obviously you mentioned Hill's not there. But there's a few weapons that I'm sure you guys are going to get into a little bit later. It's just that Mahomes' depth of target was ranked like 44th last year out of all QBs that qualified.
He was behind
There's
backups.
it was behind backups,
Yeah,
like
It's
that's
crazy.
wild.
so even if it improves, how much is it really going to improve in 1 year? That's the part that I'm a little bit skeptical of. I think that the ranking makes a little bit of sense when you take that into consideration, but like you said, it's still Mahomes. He still gets it done, and you still have Andy Reid there. So if anybody could get out of that funk, I think that Mahomes would be the one to do it.
Yeah, look, guys, he still finished QB 11 in 2024, right? So you're still talking, QB one numbers basically, and we forget, he lost Rasheed Rice last year. Travis Kelce showed
Mm.
signs of aging, right? You had Hollywood Brown that figured to be a big part of the offense, who missed the whole entire season. So he's not had the weapons at his disposal as well, and I, I guess it is hampered him. And as you mentioned, the dinking and dunking comes with not enough time to throw. So. Um, I think he's valued where he should be valued, but I think to Rogers' point, it's going to be tough. Seeing someone take Baker or Bo Nix over Patrick Mahomes is something that I can't fathom.
And you mentioned the loss of Joe Tooney. I think it was almost addition by subtraction. During the Super Bowl, the offensive line was decimated right
Yeah.
against that Eagles front, and I think Josh Simmons in a lot of mocks was like considered, one of the top 2 to 3 left tackles. So I we'll see. I think it's Nick said it very well. It's going to depend on the offensive line because Mahomes ran for his life a lot of times last year.
He did. He did. If we move along to the running backs, we have Isaiah Pacheco, who last year obviously was hurt. I think it was week 1 or 2, missed a huge chunk of the season, and then when he came back, he definitely wasn't the same. And as Raj likes to say, he runs like he's wearing jeans.
That's a good
Uh,
one.
I'm going to wait for my Pacheco thoughts.
no problem. So Fantasy Pros has him ranked as 26th, and current ADP is around 83. Right now, that's about running back 26. And then you have Kareem Hunt, who they re-signed, who was interesting. He had a nice chunk of the offense actually last year, and he could be that goal line kind of back that's going to be vulturing touchdowns. So I don't know, Nick. What do you see with this backfield? Is this something to kind of, are you trusting Pacheco with a healthy training camp and to bounce back?
Well, it depends what you're asking for me to trust, because as an RB1 or RB2, I'm not very confident. Whereas an RB3, sure, absolutely. Flex play, I'd rather go wide receivers, my personal opinion, but that could be something that you look at here. I'm just not. I'm not confident in his play. I'm not confident in his speed. I'm not confident in his breakaway ability. Like, it just doesn't feel like a bell cow that's going to go out there and really break tackles and run for 100 yards a game. So I'm not very confident in the running game there in KC, and I don't think that's their strength necessarily.
Raj?
I hate watching this guy run. I hate watching this guy. Period. Like I can't draft him. And there's a portion of, yes, I don't like him watching him run, but his running style leads to injuries. Like he cannot stay healthy. It's 6 games last year. It's 13 games started in 2023. It's 11 games started in his rookie year, and he's a ticking time bomb in terms of running. That style, the way he, like, it looks like he looks like he's a typewriter, like the way his legs go.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kareem Hunt. Yes, it just crazy that in the year 2025, Kareem Hunt is still a thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm more excited for Elijah Mitchell, who I loved his rookie year when he was at about 900, almost 1,000 yards in 10 starts. He looked amazing for the 49ers. And then the year after, I believe it was the year after or 2023, they got Christian McCaffrey, and that was pretty much it for him. He's been injury prone also his entire season, his entire career.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But if he can kind of be used in passing down situations, if he can be used kind of as a speed back, I really like him. Kind of like could be this year's J.K. Dobbins, actually. If you think of a guy who's been consistently injured with talent, then finds the right situation.
Yeah, now we're just kind of the backfield seems really, really crowded when you bring in the third guy. But I guess, like you said, it's just the problem here is they figure all to be maybe injured because Hunt is getting up there in age, right? So now
Yeah.
you're easily hurt as well in later seasons, right? When you're turning 30 and above. So I don't know. Is it kind of a backfield to avoid altogether, or are you okay? Like Nick said, if he's your RB3, are you okay putting him in your lineup on a weekly basis as your RB3?
I'd rather have like a Tank Bigsby, or like I'm looking at EDPs. Tony Pollard goes at as a 94 EDP. I'd even take like Tyrone Tracy. Pacheco's hard to trust.
He's
Very
also
hard to trust.
boring. He's a
Yes.
boring running back.
Yeah.
You don't get excited drafting these guys.
Yes. 100%.
Well, if we turn to the wide receivers, this is where it gets a little bit interesting here because you do have Rashid Rice, who's currently ranked wide receiver 31 and 46 ADP. I believe that's going to be falling within a hurry because there is that looming suspension. And I think what we've been hearing is the NFL wants to give him at least 8 games.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's something to continue to monitor. We're hoping that it happens before the season, before all of you have to draft, because I don't know how you take Rashid Rice when he's going to miss, you know, 50 to 60% of the fantasy season. You also have Xavier Worthy, who's going into his sophomore year, had a pretty solid rookie season. Then you have Marquise Brown as well that comes back. I'm not sure if he's healthy or quite healthy to start the year, but
He never is.
I know that Juju Smith-Schuster is
Oh,
still
yeah.
there, which is again not much of a sexy name, especially now. But I don't know, Raj. What do you make of this here? This whole like, who are you trusting? Who are you drafting?
I think it has to be Worthy, the one who is most trusted when you're drafting. Nacc, if you recall, I'm sure you remember, I was very high on Worthy last year.
Yes.
But if you look at the underlying metrics, he had 18 targets that traveled 20 plus air yards, and he only caught 3 of them. So they rendered a deep threat who came in with 4.21 speed. They rendered him a screen like a screen merchant, sweeps. That's all he did last year. He wasn't used to his full potential. And then the other guys, like, let you guys touch up on Rice and Brown, who is just, he's not trustworthy at all, and he's never injured. I think it's Jalen Royals. I think it's interesting. We've talked about him during our pre-draft show. He led the FBS in touchdowns over 50 yards. I think it was either last year or 2023 with 7. So they get back some speed another speed guy that, maybe he'll hit more than Worthy has, but they need improvement from Worthy this year if they're going to get back to the deep shot passing game that they've done in the past.
For sure. And I mean, Nick, Rashid Rice, say he gets 8 games. Where are you touching him at all? Is he just become undraftable?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit risk adverse, and knowing that, I'm probably not going to touch him at all. And I think he's actually going to go higher because there's always that one GM in your league that thinks he's smarter than everybody else and grabs him in the 7th round, and then stashes him on IR, and then doesn't have him for half the season and misses out on other guys that you could possibly have around that ADP. So I think that when Rice was injured last year, they weren't explosive at all in the KC offense. So Worthy has the opportunity to really take command of that, but like Raj said, he's got to catch the the deep ones. I love Royals. I was really hoping that the Raiders were going to draft Royals. Sad that he went to KC, but again, not really somebody that you could really count on, especially if you're, I think, drafting this year on a rookie that you haven't really seen much of yet. I'd be questioning drafting him this year. More of a watch list guy for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If you're hearing 8 to 10 games, like there's not really a point to have this guy. Then there's that if it starts at the beginning of the year, then you're gonna have a 2-3 week ramp up period too. Like you don't need, like the offense is gonna be nowhere near what it probably was at the beginning of the year, and
I think they only said there's no precedence to it. I think that's what the NFLPA is trying to push towards, is there has never really been a suspension length that long for a case like Rice.
Mhm.
So I think to Nick's point, someone might try to be smart and just hope that, hey, maybe the suspension is 2-3 games, which is par for the course for kind of any type of issue that doesn't relate either in death or, even worse, like battery or sexual assault. But don't want to touch that any longer.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, I think it's just really like a makeshift wide receiver room. It's like there's not that one, like, well, I guess look, minus like Rashid Rice is on his way to stardom.
Yeah.
I felt because he did bring a lot to the team, but he's not going to be there. It looks a little bit weird. They just traded Sky Moore as well to the 49ers. They got rid of him. Um, but a little bit of a mishmash here. I think you do have some value. Xavier Worthy at ADP almost 70, so it's at 68.3. I think that could be return some solid value. And then again, Marquise Brown, maybe a late flyer if depending on if you're in maybe a 12-team league, late round pick, but nothing that really jumps off the page. And then we have an interesting one here. Obviously, Travis Kelce is still there. I know Noah Gray kind of ate into some of his production last year as well, and actually looked pretty good doing it. Travis Kelce still fantasy pro rank as tight end 5, and his ADP is 75. So obviously a far cry from what it's been in previous years, and I think it's right where it needs to be. He's no longer that borderline first or second round pick. But Nick, what do you think of Travis Kelce? Does he have another year in him where he could put up some solid numbers at the tight end position?
Depends how desperate I am, because I'll be very honest with you. So he played 16 games last year, and in 7 of those 16 games, he had less than 40 yards total receiving. That doesn't cry to me consistency. It doesn't cry to me somebody that I'm willing to draft. It's more of a, okay, well, all the better tight ends have gone already, and I need a tight end. This is where I'm going. Tight end 6, I actually think that tight end 6 is too high. I see him lower on the. There's so many good young tight ends that have come in that I'd rather take a risk on than Kelce, and his age plays a factor in that. And I'm thinking that it's below 700 yards total this year. I'm going to take the under on that.
Interesting.
Wow.
That's
Raj?
really interesting. I like, this is probably the first time I like Travis Kelce at current cost ever. I'm very weary of drafting tight ends in the top 2 rounds, and I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to your boy Brock Bowers. But I like this at cost. He's nestled just before Njoku, Ingram, Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft. He still finished with like almost 1,000 yards, right? And to your point, Nick, yes, maybe he won't have the high variance games, the 11 for 100 consistently, but he still always can break out, and he's still playing with Patrick Mahomes, and they're probably the 2 most in sync players between quarterback and pass catcher that exist in the NFL right now, and I would still bet on that over taking like a Tucker Kraft or like a Jake Ferguson, or trying to see if Dalton Kincaid can be a thing for the 3rd consecutive year, which never happens.
Honestly, I think I almost agree with both of your points, because it was actually it made sense both ways. I feel, is his head all in on football, or is he looking at the retirement part of it, trying, like, I know he's doing good things with his podcast, and they're having Taylor Swift on it and making it explode, and exploring other avenues for post football. So I'm just kind of wondering if his head is still 100% in it to give that, again, 900-yard season, or something, or is this kind of like, okay, I have a contract, I'm making money here, might as well go one last year and kind of see what happens. But
well, he lost weight. He lost like a good 20, 30 pounds. And I think I listened, or there was a quote about him where he literally said that, yes, last season, a lot of the noise caught up to him, and he seems like he has a renewed focus in the season. I think the Super Bowl loss got to him too. I'm sure it got to a lot of the guys on the Chiefs. So
yeah, especially when you're used to winning them every year, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you guys a question, if that's all right.
Yeah,
of course.
Age 36, does that not make you scared a little bit when it comes to his position?
Yes.
No.
And he does, like, he if, correct me if I'm wrong, he played 16 games last year, but I believe he's missed time with injuries each of the past few seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
He had injuries, but I think he still played.
Okay.
But like I look at Tony Gonzalez's age 36 season, 93 catches, 930 yards. That was his 16th year in the league.
Wow.
So there's been proof of concept of guys, especially at that position, being able to prolong their careers. Maybe he's going to block less, but no, I would say it doesn't bother me that much, the fact that he's going to be 36.
Okay.
Good. It was a good point, though. Good question.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to keep it rolling and dive into the Los Angeles Chargers. So 2024 was Herbert had a pretty solid season. I know there was some injuries that he had to deal with, and that awful playoff performance. That was, I feel like I've never seen him play a game like that before, like where it was really like meltdown central.
Yeah.
Lad McConkey came in, broke some team records. He looked really, really good, especially as a kind of PPR monster in fantasy football. And some noteworthy changes to kind of talk about. They drafted Omarion Hampton this year to pair him with signing of Najee Harris. They also added Oronde Gaston the second. Did I say that right?
Gats, yeah. His dad. I actually remember his dad from the Dolphins around the early 2000s. He's a wide receiver with the Dolphins.
Interesting. They did lose. A huge loss is Rashawn Slater,
Yeah.
who's going to miss the season. That offensive line was going to look really, really good, and this one kind of now puts a hole into it. They're going to be switching. Who's the other one that they had
Joe
drafted
Alt.
last year? Joe Alt. He's going to be moving to the right side, I believe. They're saying so. That's going to be something to monitor. And they did draft Trey Harris, speedster, in the second round. So he looked pretty good in some preseason action and
Yeah.
some training camp that I've seen. So I'm actually kind of excited to see what he does in some in game. And actually, they re-added um, Keenan Allen back to the team
Yes.
after they signed Mike Williams, but he decided that he no longer is good at football and decided to retire. He finally figured it out himself. So kudos to Mike Williams. But we'll start at the QB position and Justin Herbert. So Fantasy Pros rank of QB 13 and 2 QB ADP of 42.4. So they did draft a running back. They did sign another running back. I know Harbaugh is known for running the ball. Raj, I know you're a big, you're really high on Justin Herbert, but what do you see for this upcoming season?
So
QB
it's
13 too high, too low?
so it's interesting. There's always a misnomer about Justin Herbert and Harbaugh, especially Harbaugh, that they're a run first team. But look, I get that they're running quarterbacks, but Herbert had more pass attempts than Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and Lamar Jackson last year. And he dealt with a lot of injuries. There was a plantar fasciitis. There was the thumb injury. I think it was basically a broken thumb. And he still was able to be basically post QB 14 numbers. He's 2 years shy of basically a QB3 year where he was pretty much at 5,000 passing yards, 37 TDs. Ladd McConkey is ascending. They added some weapons to him to that. And I think as long as he just doesn't, I felt he played too safe last year. Three INTs, except for the playoff game, but 3 INTs. They weren't pushing the ball downfield enough. Didn't feel like he used his legs enough either because he's a very athletic guy. So I think where he's at now, I think a lot of people, similar to Mahomes, a lot of people are going to overlook Herbert and go for Baker Mayfield and Bo Nix. I would much rather have Justin Herbert because I know there's proof of him being a top 3 QB, and from a talent wise, he's pretty much already there. So I like him, and I'm not necessarily afraid of the quote unquote run first offense.
Interesting.
I think he could really stretch the ball. He could stretch the field. He throws it deep. You have more weapons now with Trey Harris there. Ladd McConkey's the only real receiving star that I could really see. But you know, Herbert, the offensive line again, like you mentioned, it's a little bit scary that they lost Slater. They also have Becton that's injured right now, so there's going to be some question marks on that offensive line. If they could keep that offensive line together and kind of make it work somehow, then he definitely has the opportunity to stretch the field a lot more. And then if that's the case, I see him more of a QB 10 than a QB 13. Like I would take him over guys like Justin Fields, for example, even though there's a running upside to Justin Fields. So
Agreed.
that's I really like. Again, this whole division has such good QB play, and he's going to get his opportunities for sure to put up some numbers this year if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that last like late year collapse probably has some people like left a sour taste in some people's mouths. And Herbert, he's on a downhill trajectory. But I think Rod, you said it right. Similar to Mahomes, people are just gonna. This is one of the guys that people are gonna overlook that can easily, or that can not surprisingly pop into that top 10 in fantasy. Fantasy points by the end of the season. So I definitely agree. Now it gets a little bit more challenging as well. You have the running back situation. So they did sign Najee Harris coming off 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons in Pittsburgh. Mainly operated as the main back there, but they did switch out every once in a while. So he's kind of known to these kind of committee backfields a little bit. And they drafted Omarion Hampton, who looks as advertised right now. So basically, Hampton is Fantasy Pros rank 17 and going as pick 39 right now in 2QB ADP drafts. So now, obviously, we all know that Najee Harris had that what was it, firework accident. So there's something to his eye. Still hasn't practiced. Doesn't seen any reps. So most likely going to start the season maybe on the pup list, maybe just a few games out. But how do you see this working out? And are you okay drafting Omarion Hampton with a top 40 pick this year?
I'm scared. I'm scared not because of the talent, because Hampton has the talent, absolutely. But if Najee comes in and they're sharing the backfield, how many goal line touches does Najee get over Hampton and vice versa? It's very hard to predict how that's going to play out on the backfield. And when there's so much variation that could happen, very difficult to drop a top 40 pick, like you mentioned, on one of these two guys. Well, definitely not Najee, but Hampton. I'm very questioning the fact that with Najee there, it lowers the whole appeal to Hampton in my books.
So, Raj, I'll just ask you a quick question then, because I know you were kind of nodding in sync there, in agreement. So, Najee is going as the ADP pick 131. So, would you then more likely take a flyer on him at 131 rather than Hampton at 40?
No. You know how I feel about Najee. You know how I feel about Najee Harris.
You hate Najee Harris.
It's not that I hate him. He's just not my cup of tea as a running back. But I fully agree with Nick. For me, Hampton's going to be fine. He's going to have a great career. You know, if anyone who's not familiar with him, think of like a Joe Mixon in terms of size and type of game. I just go back to, again, as someone who owned a almost league winner in J.K. Dobbins last year. I couldn't. Harbaugh just couldn't quit Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson?
Gus
No,
Edwards.
Gus Edwards, sorry. He just couldn't quit Gus Edwards, despite the fact that Dobbins was, at one point, he was RB19. He got close to RB17 in points per game. So I see a similar fate in Hampton. And Harbaugh really likes veterans, and he really likes Najee Harris. He liked him so much that he wanted to recruit him at Michigan. There was like a video about him, how he really was pissed that he ended up going to Alabama. So I really think that Harbaugh is going to be attached to Najee Harris, and it's gonna, as Nick said, kind of gonna lower the appeal of Hampton. You said it great.
Yeah, I think when Najee is fully healthy, this becomes a full-blown committee backfield. I don't think there's going to be one that's going to get more than the other. And if it is, it's going to look more of like a 60-40 split or 55-45 type of split.
And Nacc, I mean, you're very familiar with Harris. Like, he was pretty good in pass protection. He was fantastic as a pass catcher, which is when Herbert was at his best. He had Eckler catching like almost 100 balls. And I think Najee had like an 80 catch season, no?
So his rookie season is where he caught the most, and then it drastically went downhill. They used him more as a runner, and they weren't really passing him the ball. But yeah, I think that was the appeal when Harbaugh did sign him, is the appeal of how he could catch out of the backfield. And that's where kind of where my head goes is, maybe that's where I'll take a shot at him at pick 131 just because of that PPR upside, especially in PPR leagues. But definitely something to monitor. Now we move ahead to the wide receiver group. So we've mentioned Lab McConkey's name a few times already. Wide receiver 11 and ADP of 26.8. a massive, massive rookie season. And he finished as wide receiver, I believe, wide receiver 13 last year. So already a superstar, bona fide, like wide receiver one type numbers. Then they did draft, like we said, Trey Harris, and they still have Quentin Johnson, who I don't think is going to be playing much with re-signing Keenan Allen again. He's going as wide receiver 67, and Trey Harris at the wide receiver 65. So, Nick, besides obviously Lad McConkey, is there anyone else are you taking a shot on? Would you rather grab Keenan Allen at the wide receiver 67, or do we try to grab Trey Harris?
Well, so I'm taking a look at these rankings, right? And I think maybe I'm one off, but Quentin Johnson, Trey Harris, Keenan Allen, I think they're all back to back to back 67, 68, 69 in the Fantasy Pros ranking. Basically, they don't even know what's going to happen, right? But if you put a gun to my head and you said to me, okay, who would you actually take here? It would be Trey Harris. And the reason is because of the upside. I would bet on upside around that range much more than I would bet on the grizzled vet like Keenan Allen, even though we know who Keenan Allen was and he's been great for such a long time. I would rather have the Trey Harris upside rather than that. But that's a personal preference. In the end, you're really rolling dice here.
Does the familiarity with Herbert kind of scare you off, right? Because Herbert is probably going to, gravitate towards him over maybe someone else because of that. Raj,
Could
what do
be
you
at the beginning.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's last season in LA, he was on a 13 game because he was injured a bit, as he often is. 108 catches, 1,200 yards, 96 yards per game. Fantastic last season with LA. So I'm happy he's back there. I feel like he's a I just think of him as a Charger. But I'm actually very weary of Lad McConkey personally because of the slot factor. McConkey is a pretty much 70% slot guy. We all know that Keenan Allen most notably operates in the slot. And I think right now, McConkey's kind of looked at like the next Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that has to be on hold while they bring back Keenan Allen, and he's going to be in the slot a ton. I'll be really. I'm very wary of drafting McConkey at wide receiver 11 personally.
Yeah, it is a touch high, especially like you said after they brought back Keenan Allen, and I was like, I guess, look, the familiarity aspect makes it make sense, but on the other hand, like you said, McConkey's 70% in the slot, and you brought back Keenan Allen, who's probably going to play the majority of his snaps in the slot. So, are they going to be interchanging? Are they, I see him like McConkey's obviously not going to get off the field. He's the younger
Yeah.
guy, but um, then, like I said, the familiarity aspect with Keenan Allen. Herbert knows him. He knows how he runs his routes. He knows where he's going to be. And I don't know. I think that could definitely eat into it. And that's where you see like that Trade Harris, also a rookie, might not have like those crazier numbers. So definitely going to be interesting to see but like starting the season with these guys and how Keenan Allen and Lad McConkey coexist on the same field. And then we moved into the tight end. As I mentioned, Oronde Gadsden the second. Currently going right now is tight end 41. So that's way down the list. And ADP pick of 260. Raji, sleeper weapon, sleeper red zone weapon, someone to maybe stash as your second tight end to see what happens.
Yeah, he was blowing up all around Twitter, like during training camp and just before, and even like rookie meeting camp and OTAs. I think he's a must draft. And if you look at his college career, he had a lot of injuries, but 2 seasons, not back to back, but 2 seasons of almost 1,000 yards and 6-7 touchdowns in each season. So like a big athlete. Again, dad played in the NFL. Chargers have been a wasteland in terms of tight ends since Antonio Gates retired. So this is a guy that everyone should at least on their watch list, or if you can have space instead of drafting a kicker, pick this guy up.
So we know what you're doing
Love it.
at the end of the draft.
All my mock drafts, some of my mock drafts, I'm even skipping defense. I'm just like drafting, like I'm definitely skipping kicker and even just skipping defense. So
Wow.
no
Anything
tell,
to
no tell schematic.
add, Nick?
No, I mean it's pretty much a wasteland of tight end room. Gadsden, like you mentioned, this is a guy that you're taking a flyer on late in your draft. But other than that, there's nobody here that I would draft as a starter.
Yeah, tough to start him. Like there's got to be a reason why he's going 260th, right? Then tight end 41. So we'll see. We'll see if that number changes as we get closer to draft time. But with only a couple weeks left, I don't foresee that happening. That'll do it for the Chargers, guys. We'll keep going and dive into the Denver Broncos. Finished 9-8 last year, sneaked into the playoffs. Bo Nix quietly finished QB7 as a rookie, and for a while I think was going toe to toe with Jaden Daniels for that Rookie of the Year honors. Um, Dominant first ranked defense, and Cortland Sutton career high 135 targets. I know, Raj, you some Cortland Sutton. And so, noteworthy changes. They drafted RJ Harvey, who Sean Payton is really, really high on, loves RJ Harvey. He went above a few other running backs that we thought were going to be drafted before. They added Evan Ingram in the Joker role. Still don't know what that's going to mean for him. And they also added J.K. Dobbins, who figures to be the obviously lead back to start at least to start the season. But by position, again, we'll start at QB. So Bo Nix, like I just mentioned, finished QB7 last year. So right now, Football Pros has him ranked as the QB8 and going as pick number 30 into QB ADP. So, is this a candidate for a regression, or can he repeat these top 10 numbers going forward, Raj?
Yeah, anyone who's listened this far probably knows that I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan. I think it's more the reliance on passes behind or at the line of scrimmage. He led the league with 134 of those. He completed 117, so it's a very high percentage. Very similar to the Russell Wilson season, where he's a big boomer bust guy. It's either at the line of scrimmage or it's deep to Cortland Sutton. So a lot of reliance too on touchdowns. Not a bad thing, but 29 touchdowns. He went on a bit of a heater at the end of the season. He was 20 points per game, weeks 5 to 17. I'm just wary if he could do that again with the reliance on passes at the line of scrimmage. I have to see it to believe it again.
Yeah. There's always that second year slump that comes, right? We saw it from Stroud last year. And a lot of QBs had good years. A lot of rookie QBs had good years last year. I'm curious to see what they look like in year two. But Nick, are we high on Bo Nix?
And so I would say lukewarm. I love the offensive line. I think the Broncos have a really well built offensive line, and that really helped Bo Nix in his rookie year. But like Raj said, I need to see something different from him. And the Dick and Dunks is not really going to do it on the second year because there's film out on you now.
Yeah.
So other teams will focus that down. And that's why I see a little bit of he's going a little bit too high in my books. I would rather go for a Kyler Murray. I would rather go for maybe a Dak over Bo Nix at this point because I am expecting there to be a little bit of a regression when it comes to Bo.
Yeah, I agree. And like we said, we mentioned it before. It's crazy to think these guys are being drafted before like a Patrick Mahomes. Like how in their second year after, like you said, I'm always the advocate of that. Of
Yeah.
now they have tape on you, so it's going to be easier to scheme you. They know your traits. They know your so
And Nacc, you were high on Bo. You liked Bo a
I
lot.
was.
You liked him way more than me.
I was high on him last year, and he played great. But again, how many times have we seen a QB be a stud in his rookie season, and then the following season he kind of, he kind of goes back down to earth a little bit. And this is not to say that Bo Nix won't be a good quarterback in this league, but it's always that second season tough to trust, especially going this high. Like we're talking, QB 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be weary to go that high. And to your point, Nick, I do like Dak Prescott this year as well if he can stay healthy. And yeah, I don't know. It'd be one of those guys where it's like, okay, well, it's coming to me. I'm not going to take Bo Nix. I'll take a positional player and try to get another QB after that.
Eight,
I
eight,
agree.
eight ranks higher than Jared Goff. Like almost 10 ranks higher than CJ Stroud. Like those are good values. Who,
but that's what
yes,
I'm
like
saying.
Stroud had an off year, but I think he's a candidate for positive bounce back for sure.
Yes.
Like it's QB8 is wild to me.
Yeah, especially in your sophomore year, man. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, look, Jaden Daniels, we spoke about him too, going as top 2 or 3 QB in his second year. So we'll move on to the running backs. So we mentioned they did sign J.K. Dobbins, who had a great year last year with the Chargers. I'm sorry, I blanked for a second there. I apologize to everybody. With the Chargers. And they did draft, as I mentioned, R.J. Harvey, who Sean Payton likes. He's going as running back 21 right now, ADP of 67, whereas J.K. Dobbins is actually going later, RB 37 at pick 138. Is this like kind of a trick here as what we're looking at? Like, are we, because I know, I'm pretty sure they mentioned that J.K. Dobbins was going to be the starter. So am I missing something here, Nick? Is it really like, are we just going to go with Harvey that high, or should we, sneak a late, pick 138 for J.K. Dobbins?
Well, I think this is one of those like hype things. When in the off season you're starting to see a lot of hype going around and people are posting, "Oh, he didn't get tackled, and look how fast he is, and look at all of this." Like I like RJ Harvey. Don't get me wrong, guys, but 22 is freaking high. RB 22 is very very high, especially when you have an almost league winner like last year, J.K.
Rogers League
Dobbins,
winner.
right? He's there. So
Yes.
this brings me back to the same thing as we talked about with the Chargers, where now you have a committee going on. And if who's going to be the one that at the goal line? Who's going to be the one that gets the majority of snaps? Is it going to be 50-50? Like I think that there's question marks here, and when you're drafting your RBs and like RB 22, it's a bit risky.
Raj?
Trivia time. Who was the last Broncos 1,000-yard rusher?
Did Javonte Williams do it in his rookie
No.
year?
Oh, I was about to
No,
say
not
Javonte.
even. No, it was Philip Lindsay in 2019.
Wow.
So
Philip
Wow.
Lindsay.
I think Melvin Gordon came after that experience didn't work. Obviously, the Javonte Williams experience didn't work at all. The Audric Estime experience is already finished. So it doesn't give me amazing amount of confidence in Harvey. And look, even Dobbins, to be quite frank, as much as I like both of them, especially Harvey, I think he's going to have a good career.
Yeah.
But if we recall, Sean Payton is the coach of the Broncos. And what has Sean Payton typically done with his backfield? It's been committee backs, whether it's Deuce McAllister and Reggie Bush and Pierre Thomas and Alvin Kamara and Ingram. He did it last year. He's going to do it again. I like Dobbins to get the first crack at it, but afterwards, it's who knows whose job it is.
Yeah, look, I definitely tend to agree with both of you. If I have to go after one, I'd much rather go and grab J.K. Dobbins as a late flyer rather than, top 20 running back in RJ Harvey. You're talking RB2 on your team every week.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a stretch for a rookie, like you said, especially playing for a coach that loves committee backfields, and that's not changing anytime soon. So, yeah, I would say buyer beware RJ Harvey train, at least for this season. Then we move into the wide receivers. So Cortland Sutton obviously comes back as the WR1, signed a contract in the offseason. Fantasy Pros ranked him as wide receiver 22 and a 2QB ADP of pick 71. So we did mention 135 targets last year. Bo Nix really loved him as a go-to receiver. Then you also have Franklin, who they had drafted last year. I know Vele just got traded as well. I don't know if it was to the Saints, if I saw that correctly earlier today. They had drafted two guys last year, but he went to the Saints. So a little bit more room now for Franklin. But Raj, what do we see here? Are we seeing Cortland Sutton again? Or are we looking at that 135 kind of target season again, or is the ball maybe going to be spread out a little bit more? I know that Franklin looked a bit good. It looked really good in camp this summer.
Yeah, I think Cortland Sutton is maybe it's 120 targets, but I think he's in line for another WR2 season. He's such a meat and potatoes guy, very solid player. He's gonna get the 10 touchdowns. I find his floor is high. He's very low risk. I think it'll be they need to build ancillary weapons. They haven't really built a valuable or valid WR2 in a very long time. Like, I think Cortland Sutton was the WR2 back in the day before, rest in peace, Demarius Thomas. But Bryant and Franklin is interesting because he played with Bo Nix at Oregon. They're both speedsters. Both had really solid college careers. So I think one of them has to come out of it. And there's still Marvin Mims, who he had a really good game. I think it was a game against Cincinnati. He had that crazy catch. He looked really good there. So I think this core is they're understated a bit. They're a bit underrated. But I'm in a lot of mocks. I'm picking Cortland Sutton in as my WR3, and he's like the best type of WR3 because he's the clear WR1 on the team, unquestioned.
Yeah, and I feel like he goes a little bit under the radar, right? Like it's not
Always.
really, like you said, meat and potatoes guy. So it's not like the sexiest name out there, but he gets it done.
You got to scroll down, like literally, like you have to his ADP and his ranking. He's a guy you keep scrolling down in your wide receiver list when you're drafting. You're gonna find them because there's always like the Devontae Smiths, Jalen Waddle. Somehow those guys are going before him, and I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Nick, what do you think about this wide receiver room?
That's exactly what Raj said. Like, I really don't have much to add. Sutton is the number one guy there. He's the only person that I would really go after in my drafts, and I would probably be comfortable having him as my WR2 for the whole season. If I get him as my flex or my WR3, even better. But um, like, I would overdraft him. I would draft him higher than WR22 at this point. The other guys, Mims maybe as a little bit later on, uh, but nothing really to add on those guys.
Yeah, tough to trust the other cast right now. I think we need to see some more tape,
Yeah.
more time together before we start, investing fantasy stock. But yeah, definitely agree on the Cortland Sutton train. Definitely a guy, and me too. Doing mock drafts and seeing like you're drafting guys, and you start scrolling, and you're like, wait a second, what's he still doing
Always
here?
scroll.
It makes no sense, right?
Always
And there's
scroll.
always these guys every year, but. And then we have at tight end the Joker, Evan Ingram, going currently as tight end 8 and ADP of 96. So pretty steady PPR guy. Obviously, he carries the baggage of injuries with him everywhere he goes. It's unfortunate, big bodied guy. But Nick, any are you comfortable going top 10 for Ingram, or is the Joker role kind of maybe setting you off?
No, I'm comfortable. I'm looking at Ingram as somebody that I would definitely be happy with as my tight end one if I'm not targeting tight end early, right? If I'm not going for my Bowers boy. But but I would be comfortable leaving a draft with Ingram there and still feel that he has a lot to give. Um, I kind of feel like Bo Nix could really use him.
Yeah.
And especially with Sutton being the only other guy that you're really comfortable with in that wide receiver room, they needed a good tight end, and I feel like they got one here. So I'm very happy with him at tight end 8. I think he's properly ranked.
So I fully agree with Nick. And if you go back to Evan Ingram's 2023 season, he finished as tight end 6, 114 catches, only 963 yards and 4 touchdowns. So the Joker role, basically what it means is he'll line up at wide receiver, at inline tight end, at slot, fullback, H-back. It's perfect for what Ingram does because he can't block for BALLS, for lack of a better term. So if actually I were to have a devil's advocate argument on Sutton, is the fact that Ingram is so perfect for Bo Nix's short passing game that he may actually eat into that aspect. So I think Ingram is a perfect fit for Bo Nix and obviously Sean Payton.
Yeah, for Sean Payton, he loves those type. Was he around New Orleans with Taysom Hill?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was for a bit,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
Jimmy Graham, obviously, that was
Jimmy Graham,
the initial Joker role.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Graham was the for sure the OG on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with both of you. I like Evan Ingram. It's just let's hope he can, stay healthy for all 17 games.
Yeah.
That wraps up the Broncos. So we will dive into now Nick's Las Vegas Raiders. So 2024 recap quickly. They were 7-10, so another losing season. Max Crosby again, very, very dominant. Could have been one of the defensive players of the year. Some of the worst QB play in the NFL, we must say. And I think we said it at the beginning of last year. That team was literally a QB away from competing. And then what was it? It was Gardner Minshew and
Aidan
who's the other
O'Connell.
one? Aidan O'Connell. Yeah, you can't even remember the names. That's how bad it was.
AOC.
But
I
the
remember
only, yeah, for sure. But the one lone bright spot was a rookie of the name of Brock Bowers, who really, really jumped off the page in his rookie season. And Rog was vindicated by Zamir White. Wow, he was going high last year in drafts. Man, that was horrible. But no longer there, so you no longer have to worry about that. Some noteworthy changes. Pete Carroll era begins, so that's going to be very, very interesting. Probably figure to run a lot more. Chip Kelly as OC from OSU, that is going to be very interesting. I'm really excited to see that. They signed Geno Smith, so finally some kind of capable quarterback out there. Definitely the best one they've had in many, many years. So excited to see that. They also drafted Ashton. Why do I always mispronounce Ashton Jeanty for? It's just the easiest name, and I always mispronounce it for some reason. But they drafted Jeanty in the first round. So Bowers obviously won Rookie of the Year. So I don't remember if ever has a team won back-to-back Rookie of the Years.
Actually, he came in second place to Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
it's true.
Rookie
Jaden
of the
Daniels.
Years.
That's true. Daniels won.
I
Oh my
assumed.
God.
I actually assumed too that just Bowers won.
Yeah, you're right.
So
It's true. He
good.
came in second. Okay, so then Jeanty has a chance to pay me maybe win. And then they drafted also Jack Beck, who really like in the second round, and the wide receiver room looks kind of okay this year. Looks a little bit better with Beck added to the fold. So we'll dive right into the QB as we mentioned. Geno Smith, Fantasy Pros ranked 25, 2QB ADP of 112. So he's kind of your steady Eddie QB2. Now goes into a new offense. I'll give you the first word on this, Nick, since it's your Raiders. How are you feeling about Geno Smith?
How much time do we have?
We got to wrap it up.
Gotta wrap it up. All right. So, best QB that we've had since 2012, Derek Carr.
Holy smokes.
Probably one of the best deep passers in the league, at least in the last 3 years. His ability to command an offense with a creative play caller, like you just mentioned, um, whose name escapes me.
Chip
I don't
Kelly.
know why. Chip Kelly. Thank you.
Kelly.
I keep forgetting his name. So
Because
Chip
he was so
Kelly.
bad in the NFL.
Oh, he was so bad as a head
Yeah,
coach,
oh
but
my
thank
God.
God he's an offensive coordinator now, so we don't have to worry about head coaching stuff. Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, like this is probably the best offensive line that Geno Smith has played behind, which is not saying much because the Seattle Seahawks had the worst offensive line last year, and the Raiders would be maybe mediocre at best, maybe a little bit below average even, but that's still a huge improvement from what Geno Smith has ever had. So I actually see Geno having a very good year, and I'd be comfortable with him as a low end QB two. Like when it comes to fantasy, because I know this is a fantasy podcast, so I'll leave all the other stuff on the side. Um, I'm comfortable with him as a QB two, low end QB two for this year.
Raj?
I'm a big Geno fan. I own Geno all of last year, and I was quite disappointed. I think he's a fantastic real life QB. I think he's going to be very solid for the Raiders in terms of turning that franchise around. But if you look at from the 2022 season when he had 30 touchdowns and he went down to 20 touchdowns and he went down to 21 touchdowns, the issue has been red zone passing. And in fantasy, red zone play is key. So his red zone touchdown percentage, it was down to 18% in 2024. It was at 23% in 2023, and his breakout season was at 35%. So he's been turning the ball over a lot. He doesn't get it done in the red zone. Maybe that has to do with the offensive line. Maybe that has to do with, he actually had a really good supporting cast. He's very good under pressure. He's very good at tight window throws. So again, real life, I think he's going to be fantastic. I really don't want him this year. Again, I just worry about that aspect. Left too many touchdowns on the bone.
Yeah, I think you hit it right. I think I do like him as a quarterback, and I think he's going to do. I think he's going to do great um, in that offense. I think with Chip Kelly, it just the lack of, like you said, productions and the red zone. The red zone production does scare you for sure. Um, so I probably look at Geno more as like a high end QB3, like low. He's going to have his weeks where he's going to nestle in that QB2 and he's gonna play solid. But again, it's just I'm not completely sold on Geno's.
Well, if you look at where he's going, he's right after Michael Penix Jr. in, as you said, Nacc 24 spot. I'd take him before Matthew Stafford with whatever's happening right now. I don't think I'd take him before Cam Ward because there's just there could be some upside there. And then there's like Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, and like you said, Nacc, you're getting into QB3 territory.
I think
I
but
find.
he's ranked properly. I think
Yeah, he is. He really
25
is.
is pretty where he should be going. So I don't have a
Like
problem where he's being drafted.
I feel he'll get. I could see him getting to 4,000 yards. I could see him getting to 22 touchdowns, and he'll throw picks because he likes to fit it in there, like 12, 13 picks, and the Raiders can make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and that'll be a successful season for him. And I'm sure Nick would be very happy.
Nick will have the parade.
Yeah, I don't have them making the playoffs, but I do have them doubling their win total. I think they only had 4 wins last year, if I'm not mistaken.
They were 7-10.
They were 7-10. Really? That
Yeah,
good?
that
Jeez,
good. Yeah.
it's
Nick, do you want us to get you a jersey when we're there?
impressive. Absolutely, I will pay for that. But it has to be deuces. Anyways, we'll talk about deuce later.
Then we move into the running backs. Obviously, like we mentioned, they drafted Jeanty. He's right now going Fantasy Pros RB6, and current ADP is 13.8. Potentially has a workhorse kind of season coming. I know that they went to get Raheem Mostert as a backup, and honestly, I'm looking at it, and Zamir White is still on this roster. I thought he was no longer on the roster, but he's still there at at RB3. And then I know we had Sincere McCormick
Oh
came in.
yeah, played well.
That did pretty chill actually
Yeah.
when he did have an opportunity. So, um, Raj, I know you've been skeptical of this, especially rookies going that high. What do you think about what about Jeanty? Is he worth the price?
Not for me. There's no chance where I'm drafting. Let's say if we reference Bush League, that he's back at the turn. I think he's going to go in the first round. The thing is, it's just personal preference. But like if you look at past history, guys like Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley, they had ADPs of sixth, seventh in the first round, and they
Clyde
finished
Edwards-Helaire.
Clyde was a so Barkley and Elliott, they were first round ADPs and they finished RB2 and RB3 respectively. But then you have the flip side exactly, Nacc, of Edwards Hilaire, who was RB9 and finished as RB22, right? Like Najee Harris actually flip side where he had a lower ADP and actually finished high. So generally I think for running backs who fit the bill and are very talented like Jeanty, I think there's a good chance he can make up for that ADP. But I worry about the running O line, the run blocking O line aspect. It was a rough go at it last year, Nick, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And I also think that to 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 match that ADP, you have to be able to catch a lot of passes. And then with targets like Myers, Bowers, Beck, Mayer, those are guys who like it in the short intermediate. Will Geno favor them, or will they check it down to Jeanty? So he might lose opportunities in the pass catching game, which would boost up his value typically.
Yeah, curious to hear your thoughts, Nick.
Yeah, I'm not happy at RB5 or 6 that he's projected at right now.
You want higher?
No, although, no. Look, fandom aside, I'm risk adverse, like I mentioned before. I think it's too risky. You could lose your fantasy league if you miss draft in the first round. You If you miss draft later on, you could kind of recover. But that first round pick is so important for a fantasy league that I wouldn't risk it necessarily on a rookie. Even though I think Jeanty is uber talented and he will end up eventually becoming an RB1 in fantasy as well, I'm not so sure it's going to be in the first year. So if he's going to be an RB2, if I could take him late first round, sure, but I'm pretty sure somebody else is going to end up getting him before me. When it comes to Rod, you mentioned the O line last year. I think you could pretty much take that whole O line experience and throw it out the window, because if you're looking at those numbers, don't forget Minshew was throwing the ball. Nobody was scared of Minshew. They would stack the box against us. AOC is throwing the ball. This guy can't move. He literally has two cement legs. He's a pocket. He's in the pocket. He has no pocket presence, and he can't get out of the pocket if his life depended on it. So the O line was stuck. Your O line's performance is so tied in with who your QB is that I think it makes a very big difference having Geno there now as opposed to what they had last year. So I think Chip Kelly is really going to bring the most out of Jeanty, but I'm still not taking him as RB5.
I'm curious, would you guys take Jeanty or Derrick Henry? PPR.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Jeanty or CMC?
CMC.
Same.
Okay. I agree on
Again,
both fronts.
it's just tough to trust a rookie, man. Like I know there's been rumors of like he's not going to be the workhorse, and he's going to split time, and they're going to they don't want to just throw him out there. I know he had a couple of he had a rough showing his first preseason game. Second preseason game was better. Uh, Look, we'll see, but I'm not the guy who's going to be taking the risk that high because, as you mentioned, Nick, in fantasy football, you have to hit on your first and second round picks. You have no choice, and if you miss on one of those two picks, like you're starting behind the eight ball. So definitely going to be a good player. I'm definitely excited to watch him, and we will be watching him live as well. So very excited for that, and I'm hoping he has a good season. But it's definitely not going to be the risk I want to take at RB6. I will move along to the wide receivers. So Jakobi Meyers, one of my favorite players. The guy who's the least talked about, probably wide receiver in the league. So underrated, but I find such a good wide receiver. Right now, you have Fantasy Pros ranking him as wide receiver 39 and going as a ADP 102.
It's crazy.
Still don't understand 40. That doesn't make sense there. Career highs last year: 1,000 yards, 129 targets, 87 catches, and finished as WR19. Why is he going double that?
with Minshew.
Yeah, with Minshew and AOC, like we
AOC.
just said this, right? Like, why is he? This is going to be another wide receiver, guys, where you're going to be scrolling down your list and you're going to be like, why is the WR1 on this team not taken yet? They did draft Jack Beck. He's going as wide receiver 63. Trey Tucker still there. Dante Thornton kind of both flashing at camp and can have kind of potential roles on the team as well. But Raj, is this wide receiver group to jump on, especially Jakobi Meyers at wide receiver 39?
Myers is great. He's fantastic. I still can't believe the Patriots let him go. I think the only issue maybe people have with him is just the lack of touchdowns. Not like a huge touchdown. I mean, he had 8 the in 2023, but only 4 last year. There's not much more that could be said about him. I think he's going to be very, very good again with Geno. And I'm curious, Nick, your thoughts about Tucker. I feel like he flashes a little bit here and there. And then and then Beck or Besh? Is it Beck? Is it Beck?
I think it's Beck.
Let's call him Beck. He has a similar type of game as Myers, and they did take him in the second round. Round. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of saying, oh, just because you're drafted at a certain draft class that it automatically means that we're just handing you reps, right? Like I think for some players, like a Matthew Golden, it's the case, but not necessarily Beck. But I'm curious, Nick, your thoughts on like the ancillary pieces after Myers actually.
So Myers and Beck are pretty much the same player, like you mentioned. Beck is a little bit more physical. Myers is a little bit more faster. Both of them had 0 drops. Like they do not drop the ball whatsoever. The only thing that scares me a little bit with Myers is his contract situation right now. Myers has no guarantees on his contract this year, and he's not very happy with that. He wants a new contract from the team. It's something to keep an eye out. It doesn't mean necessarily that he's not going to have a good year, but it is something to keep an eye on. But Beck and Myers are pretty much playing the same role. So I don't see Beck having much of a season this year. I think this is a building year for him, where Myers is going to be playing that slot role pretty much. Trey Tucker has a 4.31 speed. This guy is uber fast. He's only 5'8", I think. He's a tiny wide receiver, but knowing that Geno is the type of person that likes to air it out, very good at deep throws, Tucker definitely has an opportunity here to be one of those deep threats. I just don't know how consistently he'll be able to do that. Deontay Thornton Jr. is literally a one-trick pony. He's a gigantic man who runs a 4.3. And he basically is going to be the other deep threat on this team. So, but he can only run in a straight line.
So he'll be the X, basically. He'll just play X receiver. Yeah.
And
he's big enough that he could win those contested catches, whereas Trey Tucker is really going to beat people on route running and speed. So it's just a little bit different to look at. I'm expecting Myers to eat a lot this year, and I'm expecting those touchdown numbers to go up, especially with so many other weapons around. There's going to be a little bit less focus on him. Last year, there was really only him and Bowers. Nobody else. Nobody was scared of the run. Nobody was scared of Minshew. Nobody was scared of AOC. This time, there's a little bit more juice to the offense. So I'm expecting similar yards maybe for Myers, but those touchdowns to go up.
I like it. This team looks a lot more interesting than it has in a few years. So there's definitely stuff to be excited about. And last but not least, at the tight end position, you have obviously the unquestioned tight end number 1 overall, Mr. Brock Bowers, who had an incredible rookie season. Now, I think we all agree that he's the number one tight end in fantasy football, but this comes at an ADP of 12.8. I know Rog's answer already. He's definitely not comfortable going that high on a tight end. So I'll turn it over to Nick. Are you spending that high of a pick on a Brock Bowers? And is it worth it considering you might lose out on, either an RB1 or a wide receiver one in a draft?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not comfortable with taking Bowers on the turn. Um, I'd rather wait a little bit for my tight end, not because of it's a little bit personal preference, but especially in a two QB league, it's just a little bit too early at tight end. Having said that, I do think that we're talking about a generational talent here. This is a guy that was breaking records as a rookie. Um, and I mean, I don't know if you saw that contested catch in in the preseason. He
I did.
basically he mossed that cornerback,
Yeah.
right? Um, like this guy is absolutely uber talented, and I wouldn't be surprised if even you see him getting long balls thrown at him, not just the short intermediate routes. He could beat people with his speed.
Yeah.
So I think I think Brock Bowers is going to eat again this year. And yes, if you're comfortable, if you're a big fan of tight ends, maybe in a one QB league, okay, sure. In a two
Pause.
QB league, I wouldn't do it at that high ADP.
I agree. Rog?
I was curious, Nacc, so I went back. I did a little rewind into our Bush League Huddle draft in 2023 when an unnamed friend took Travis Kelce, the last great quote unquote tight end year for Travis Kelce. So he went high second round. He went just ahead of Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill. So Kelce finished with 221 PPR points for tight end 3. That would have been WR 19.
Mm-hmm.
Chase ended up as the WR11 with 263 points. But right after Chase, Tyreek was WR2 at 378. So there was a 149 point gap between Tyreek and the person who chose Kelce, the next wide receiver they took, which was Devontae Smith. And then if you look at Kelce and kind of like a replacement level tight end in Jake Ferguson as an example, there was a 50-point gap. That is why it is very dangerous to take tight ends early, unless the only way is unless you get a Gronk type season.
Oh yeah, well exactly. Like your tight end has got to hit and hit well. But again, imagine in a two QB league, you take in the first round you take a quarterback, and then in the second round you take Brock Bowers. Now you got to wait for your turn again. Who's left at wide receiver and at running back, right? That you have like that prowess for. So to your point, there's a Jefferson or a CD Lamb that might go through, and you're going to miss out on these guys for the tight end. That, yeah, 100%, he's going to finish as the tight end one. But what are you going to do at wide receiver? Both your wide receivers might not finish with the same amount of points as Brock Bowers had, right? So, yeah, very very tricky, and I agree on all fronts. I'm not. I'd love to have him. It'd be really fun to watch
Yeah.
Brock Bowers put up fantasy points in the tight end slot, but I'm definitely not going to miss out on a Neighbors, on a Brian Thomas Jr. For Brock Bowers. So I think we're all in sync on this one.
I should mention as well, Michael Mayer is still going to be involved in this offense. And he was a second round, I think, tight end a few years back. So he kind of stepped away from football last season after the shit show that was the Raiders, and this year he looks like he's coming back with a vengeance. So I do see. We were talking before a little bit about Geno Smith's numbers in the red zone with Bowers and Mayer there. Throw in a little bit of Mayers on the side. You might actually have a little bit better numbers with Geno in the red zone simply because of these huge targets that you have underneath that could really help in the end zone. That in Seattle, they didn't really have. I mean, they had the wide receivers. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't have the tight end group inside to really help out. And with that offensive line in Seattle, they couldn't even run the ball through. So I think it's going to be a different season for Geno. I think we're going to see a very different Geno this year.
I like it. Yeah, don't sleep on definitely don't sleep on Mayer as well. I think it looked good. I think it looks like I said, it looks better than it has in a really long time. So there's I definitely understand the optimism coming out of Raiders Nation.
I'll just give a little final thought that I had written down here, and I completely forgot to mention it.
Do it.
We're probably going to have the 5th worst defense in the league, and we're going to be throwing a lot to catch up in games. So it's this offense looks like it could possibly be a top 10, top 15 offense. And if you do hit on that top 10, top 15 offense with a horrible defense like we have, I mean, this is fantasy gold. This is exactly what fantasy league
Lot of
people
garbage
want.
time.
Lots of garbage time. It's going to be great.
Nick, Geno Smith already signed his deal, man. He doesn't need another agent. He got his deal already. No, man, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think I might be back on Geno Smith Island. Actually, you might have convinced me.
We'll see. There's supposedly talks with Trey Hendrickson to try to get him in as well now. So
that would be insane.
Yeah,
that would be insane. Well, that'll do it for the Raiders, and that will do it for this week's episode. Nick, thank you so much for joining. Guys, please follow him at the Partial Breakaway Podcast. I'm telling you, you are missing out if you're not tuning into that. As I mentioned, you could follow him on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Twitter. You could also follow the Bush League Huddle on all those same platforms. So please follow us before you follow him. And
it's fair. It's fair.
That's a wrap for us. Next week we take on, I believe it's the final division. Which one do we have left?
AFC West with your co-host.
AFC West, yeah.
Co-host Junior
from the.
He's not as good as I am, but
joining us.
Whatever.
We'll leave that in there.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week. Roger, cue the music.
Well done.
That was nice.
A very good one.
You guys have awesome music, by the way. Awesome music.
The best.
Have a good night, everyone.
Goodbye.